Yes, we have two of them, as a matter of fact.
Excellent.
Two of them. Both, yep, Brian and Maria are good friends with him. And we're going to, basically what we got here going on, they're going to tell you the whole story, but, in a nutshell, Schaeffer Cox was basically framed, and had to do some time, actually still is doing time, as a matter of fact. And what a lot of people don't know, and they're going to explain more of it too, and we've been doing a lot of research on this. I've been watching a lot, and I'm sure Brian and Maria and you guys have seen too. There's Will Potter, a journalist. He's been covering a lot of these CMUs, which is the memory serves me right, communications management units. And I was doing a little connecting the dots, like I was telling Brian and our friend Angela about who was actually running these CMUs, because there's only two of them in the United States, and they didn't go through the proper authority to even be established. So what we're going to do here is going to bring on Brian here, and then we're going to bring on Maria. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Pretty good. I'm doing good. Why don't you give us the rundown, if you can, Schaeffer? There's a lot of us that know about him and what has happened, but then again, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand who he is or what happened to him.
Okay, well, I first met Schaeffer about 10 years ago, before all this stuff happened, and he was obviously newlywed at the time, and his wife and him were doing well. He was doing jobs, working, getting a couple businesses going. He owned his own home. He had climbed Mount McKinley a couple of times before all this mess, and he even had a sailboat sit down in Sitka that he would go out and dive, and it would sell, I'm sure, cucumbers or something to the Japanese. And he ran for office, a state representative office, and got 38% of the vote at 24 years of age, which is unheard of. And
wow.
He didn't win. And then he got a couple of pro-Second Amendment bills passed in the state. And then he started a militia unit, peacekeeper militia, because he saw what was happening, and he's absolutely right, what was happening with the government 6 years ago plus. And so he started having town hall meetings, and the town hall meetings got big here, and he started going around to several states, and the feds picked up the content of his patriotic speeches, alerting his citizens, and of course they don't like alert, well-informed citizens, so they proceeded to set him up. They got a couple of guys. One of them, I'll send you a wanted poster off of him. J.R. Olson was one guy that was paid to set him up and let off of some federal crimes, or some local crimes to different people, some felony crimes. And so they worked it and set him up and ended up busting him. He tried to get away. He came into my house years ago and was obviously scared, and he told me this story, and his attorneys have the story now, but he was scared that they were railroading him into violence that he did not want to do, and we've even finally got the video back on that now that he's in their presence and denied that. So this whole thing is just, the case is won, as far as I'm concerned. It is won, and but it's like the Bundys. Is he going to get out? The Bundys are still in prison, and right. This is what they do. Since I've been working on Schaeffer, helping Schaeffer, what I've seen with the whole bunch, the judicial system, just disgusting. I won't say what I really think. It's just the most disheartening thing I have ever seen. And if anybody thinks there's a constitution in effect, I beg to differ with them. There's no constitution in effect, and right. It just destroyed his life. He just saw he's 3,000 miles away from his family, and he just saw his 5-year-old daughter for the first time, and his 9-year-old son for the first time in 6 years. And if that isn't cruel and unusual punishment, I mean, he cannot even hug his children when he sees them for the first time in his life. Wait, what is this? This is baloney, I'll tell you.
Well, it's been noted here that the Fairbanks attorney Robert John even said that the case was by far the worst travesty of justice he's even encountered in his 25 legal career. You know,
exactly.
And it's just this is horrible. I mean, I was going over this, and it's destroyed his life. Bottom line, it's completely destroyed it. I mean, he was framed. You know, and
he was framed.
Right, absolutely. And what blows my mind is the fact that all the evidence that was in his favor, like you and I were discussing yesterday, has been, you know, they just wouldn't allow it in court. Am I correct?
Oh, no exonerating evidence. And not me and another witness that was going to testify in his behalf. You know, the two people telling what we were going to say, that would have blown their whole case. In fact, I think his attorney at that time told him, if I try to get you off of this thing too hard, they're going to throw me in jail too. So it was just a kind of a ease Mr. Cox in prison to shut him up.
Right.
In the CMU, Communication Management Unit, which is very deceptive name, really.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot more than manage you. They manage you away from your family, your former life, anybody that knew you. They want you to disappear and everybody forget about you, but they picked on the wrong guy this time. This guy ain't going away, and I ain't quitting.
Right.
And I've been working and alerting people and doing this and that for him for 6 years now, and this is what my retirement has become, defending us from our government.
Right. It was even according to this whole 241 deal, you know, where J.R. Olson was trying to, you know, convince and talk, you know, Schaeffer, correct me if I'm wrong, into this whole 241 deal, and of course somehow or other they had planted in that it was Schaeffer's idea when Norm Olson said that was something they used during in his Alaska Citizen Militia back in '96 during in Montana to support the Freemen and the 81-day stand for the FBI. That was when that 241 or 341, 441. That's when that was all generated. Cox had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you're right. They just used that up there. Yes, sir. Used that up there, and then they just figured, well, that worked over here, so we'll just take it to Fairbanks and stick Cox with the same stuff.
Absolutely.
There was no 241 never came from Schaeffer Cox. It came from J.R. Olson and his what's the other guy's constituent there? Norm, yeah.
Normal. They're not related, but they have the same last name, Olson. Yeah. Let's bring on here. Let me see, Maria. How are you doing?
Maria knows her stuff.
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm doing good. Can you enlighten more about this subject to us before?
Sure. You wanted to talk to people who've known Schaeffer for a while, who knew him before this all came down. And I met him when he was just after he had run for State House, so before any of this stuff happened. I think that was 2008. And then in 2009, you remember when the Department of Homeland Security they put out that report about right-wing extremism, and they were in collusion with the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they decided that you know those guys, yeah. Anyway, they said that the next terrorist threat was people, primarily hate-oriented groups, particularly, and this is the new definition of hate-oriented groups, religious groups, those that are mainly anti-government, rejecting federal authority in favor of state or local authority. Let's see, may include groups of individuals, and I'm just looking at this because it really kind of defines where Schaeffer was in his thinking at the time. Says it might include groups and individuals that are dedicated to a single issue, such as opposition to abortion or immigration. And he was Schaeffer was president of Interior Right to Life, and Interior Alaska Right to Life. He was, real strong on the Second Amendment. He was a strict constitutionist, a strict constructionist. Opposed big government, homeschooled Christian. Basically right in the crosshairs of what that Homeland Security was saying are the haters.
Unbelievable. That's just unbelievable. What is your take on what had happened to him?
Well, it's just a huge agenda to, just to basically retrain Americans and take away our rights of conscience. We're not allowed to stand up, speak out, believe, be Christian, believe in common law. We're supposed to all, get caught up in this whole other system that's not us. It's just a takedown of one of the most promising people I've ever heard speak on, and make these issues all really, really simple. So it's just a travesty. It's not only sad for him, it's just sad for everyone who he was reaching out and reasoning with and educating, basically.
No, yeah. So he influenced a large amount of people, and you're right. It's sad for everybody to see that this patriot, who is so well spoken, and such a leader, and such just an overall nice guy, great guy. I mean, I don't know him personally, but after reading all these things and researching this stuff and then talking to Angela, a friend of mine, about him, that he seems like the kind of guy you just couldn't help but love the guy,
Oh yeah, and super down to earth kind of a person.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what blows my mind is that even the two assistant United States attorneys, Bottini and Cooper, they even on their own accord said that legal action isn't appropriate here. He hasn't done anything wrong. But
right?
yet, it was the federal government just picked it up anyway. Said no, screw this. Basically, we're going to go for it.
Some of that was probably fueled by some people in town locally that didn't like the Liberty Bell network. They didn't like people being encouraged to film the police and to show up and make sure the police weren't abusing people. So some of that fuel for the fire came locally, I believe. So, and then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the federal government decides who to investigate, but they really did. They were in his house for 2 years, something like that, and taping and filming and getting evidence. But when it was his turn to present his evidence, all of his evidence that was exculpatory, which means that it'll just basically refute the charges, that was all denied. He couldn't bring certain recordings he wanted to bring. He couldn't make his case. It was just, you're the defendant. You're the piñata. As long as you're the defendant, we're going to beat on
trying
you.
To make an example out of him.
Yep. So that's your role to play, and it's a sick mafia that we're living under here.
That's true. I mean, going back to kind of what you were saying there about, there were some people he might have rubbed wrong per se, like some people didn't like the liberty movement, and stuff like that, but the whole police thing, making sure they didn't cross the line or anything like that, and that just goes. I mean, we hear case after case after case that only solidifies the fact of how divided we really are as a nation. When we think division in the United States, we think a lot of people think black and white, And I mean, that's the first thing that's always thrown in our face by mainstream media, but it's actually division with just the fact of being an American. What is wrong with someone like Schaeffer Cox, who was an outstanding leader, setting up? The thing is the leaders, they can set examples. Any leader can do that, but you got to set a positive example, and that's what he did. He set positive examples for others to follow, and just touted the Constitution. which is nothing more than what this country was founded on. And it just goes to show you how divided we are when people can't handle that and think that is a problem. And a lot of that goes to the whole, our system and major corporations, the media, just demonizing people, the patriots, or demonizing militias, or demonizing anybody who's maybe against abortion or anything like that. It's just, I keep hearing it over and over and over again. I keep seeing this division, and he was made an example out of, essentially, for his beliefs.
Yeah, and I just think it goes to what we're going to be allowed to believe, what's politically correct, and what won't be. And you can see the direction the country's going, and it's not the country. It's not the direction the country's going. It's the direction that is the agenda of the global elite, and we're going to come under one world order. And if you don't dare say certain things, otherwise you're going to be made an example of. And it's total suppression of our rights of conscience.
Right. We even have here... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can see it in the CMUs. The CMUs are designed... What Schaeffer has said is he's not really allowed to talk about it too much, but just in doing research and listening to Will Potter and reading some of the lawsuits that are going on, they're violating It's like experimentation on the prison population so that eventually it will get used in the general population. Not just the general prison population, but throughout the entire, the country and the world.
Right.
And that is to retrain people who have what are termed to be fundamentalist beliefs, extremist beliefs, and so in the CMUs, it's a lot of Muslim extremists. So what they're doing is they take you into a psychologist constantly, and it's 1984. Just read the end of 1984. And that is what it is. That's what the CMUs are for, is to do social experimentation, to suppress our rights of conscience. I can't think of any other way to say it, really, but you're not allowed to think this. And you're not allowed to say this, because if you do, you'll be martyred. There'll be repercussions. You'll be put into jail. This is,
You're absolutely right. It's like re-education. It's basically essentially what it is. It's re-education.
It is.
And even Will Potter in a couple of his videos that I saw, actually 3 of them, he even mentioned that. He asked a couple of inmates that he was talking to when he went there once, and he even said he came to realize that there is torture there. There's a psychological torture that goes there. This just isn't a normal prison, people. For everybody out there listening, there are 2 of these CMUs. One's located in Terre Haute, Indiana, and the other one is in Marion, Illinois. Okay, and they house between 60 and 70 prisoners total. It's a prison within a prison, a communications management unit. And they're typically called little Guantanamos, okay? And over 2/3 of the population, like Maria was saying, are Muslim, but they wanted to avoid all these lawsuits out there, so they started bringing other people in, these environmental advocates, political advocates and stuff, and they call them the balancers, just to avoid the lawsuit, break it up so there's not too many Muslims there. Is that a wrong assessment, Maria, Brian?
No.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's right.
And Schaeffer would be considered a balancer because he's white, he's Christian, he's not a Muslim extremist, but it doesn't matter. As long as you're an extremist or a fundamentalist, we'll take you. If you're opposed to this one world religion and bringing all the religions under one roof, that's going to be the next thing.
Absolutely. Now, I noticed also here that... I'm sorry, what was that?
I was going to say if you oppose it. I just wanted to be clear.
Sure.
That
right.
You're not allowed to oppose it. You have to go along with one world religion. And, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that these little CMUs, the little Guantanamos, within a prison, these people, they have, these prisoners in there, they have there's different rules for them than the other prison population. I mean, they're completely banned from any physical contact with visiting their family members or friends, and they're also severely limited, including interactions with other prisoners and phone calls. And Brian, didn't you tell me that something along the lines they only get? Actually, I think it was Will Potter also. You and I heard it from this video that other prisoners typically get, I think, 300 minutes, I believe, a month, whereas those in the CMU only get 2 15-minute phone calls a week, and that's it.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about what it is. Maybe a little more, a little less, but you're
right.
You're cut off from everybody.
Right. Yeah, it's essentially what it is. You're cut off from everybody. And what blows my mind is these prisoners have neither any significant disciplinary records, nor have any communication related infractions or anything like that. You know, it's basically bias, political scapegoating, religious profiling, and racism keeps them locked up inside these special units. You know, yeah. and what blows my mind is these. You know, I'm sitting. I have a link in front of me. These units, there's a process they have to go through to even become legit. And both of these units in Indiana and Illinois, am I wrong in saying? I mean, that they have not gone through the proper process?
You're right. I read that. I read they haven't been. What is it? Approved or federally approved or something?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, speaking of which, I was trying to. You and I were talking yesterday, Brian. I was trying to connect the dots, and I was telling Angela a little bit about it. That I was listening to this thing with Will Potter when he was doing his thing, his video, and he was talking about one of the inmates, McGowan, and how apparently the the warden wanted to go ahead and give McGowan, let him free, let him go. You know, because, you know, based on good behavior, he's been an outstanding, inmate, blah, blah, blah. Well, apparently, what caught my ear, apparently the Bureau of, and I have it written down here, the Bureau of Prisons Counterterrorism Unit overrode the warden's plea, I guess you can say, what he wanted, and they put him in there, they kept him in there. So I was like, well, wait a minute. Okay, well, who runs the Bureau of Prisons Counterterrorism Unit if they're able to override what the warden wants? And I looked it up, and okay, well, they're within the FBI. Well, obviously, they're under the FBI Director James Comey. James Comey is obviously appointed by the POTUS. No, I'm not saying James Comey or the POTUS were directly involved in, hey, put McGowan back in there or have any correlation to Schaeffer Cox. But that's kind of a trail. I mean, at this point, it could be anybody. It could be the CIA, which would be completely illegal, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
It seems like it's the president, whoever's the president, it's his private prison,
Right.
And
absolutely.
And it was actually, they were created in 2006 and 2008. Mm-hmm. So Obama did inherit them. And
right.
And I'm not quite sure how that works with having so many Muslim extremists in these prisons, but I think what the Department of Homeland Security and the DOJ under Eric Holder was thinking that they'd be doing is changing that, rebalancing that. I don't know how many people have been let out and pardoned since in the last few weeks since Obama hasn't been president-elect, or since he's leaving. He's a lame duck, but it seems to me that a lot of these prisoners would be replaced by people like Schaeffer, who are more like the balancers. But I can't back that up right now. I don't know that that's true.
Well, I did do some research on that, and they were created. Both of them were created during the Bush administration, and they had it was like what you said, was shortly after 2001, 9/11. But it was definitely in Bush's administration. And it says here even as well that these isolation units have been shrouded in secrecy since their inception. They were created without public knowledge and without the opportunity for the public to comment as required by law. In 2010, the Bureau of Prisons attempted to redress this violation by 3 years after the fact, finally disclosing their policy for public comment. But that was like 3 years after the fact. the public has to have the opportunity to comment on this. This is law. So they completely violated the law by creating these two and not involving the public whatsoever.
Well, it could be just like other bureaucracies that they create regulations and then they act on these regulations. There's also something called a global to local initiative, and we see a lot of that now, where they make an end run around all the American representative governments, like the Senate and the House in the U.S. In the Capitol, and then your state Senate and House, and your local government. They make an end run and they implement something like Common Core or like, whatever. And that's called a global to local initiative. It's part of Agenda 21. And
sure.
And it's for that very reason, because the American people probably wouldn't stand for it. So let's just give money to this local level, and then we'll implement these things. So I'm not sure how that comes into play with the CMUs, but there's so much going on all the time that it's almost impossible to keep track of what these cretins are doing.
Absolutely. I mean, these CMUs are a direct violation of the inmates' First Amendment. Bottom line, their freedom of speech, the press, right to peacefully assemble, to petition, I mean, even a direct violation of the Fifth Amendment of due process. That's a big one right there. You don't have the due process in this thing.
Well, the really disheartening thing about this is that we have militia members in Alaska that are in organized militias that basically throw Schaeffer under the bus and say, well, too bad, he's a convicted felon. And they can't, and that's the majority of people up here.
Right. Not all of them. I get that. It's just the majority. Right. But
it's the majority of... But I'm not talking about socialists. I'm talking about Christians. I'm talking about people who are believe that the Constitution should still be, adhered to. People who are in militias.
And I hope some of them are listening, because if they are listening, they should be ashamed of themselves, because that's all part of what I keep screaming about, all the division and the petty differences and stuff like that. And everybody should be uniting, but everybody wants to play the alpha male and fight amongst each other, and that's precisely what they're doing with him, hating on him, throwing him under the bus, because he stood up for what he believed in.
Well, he stood up for what they believe. He stood up for what they believe in. And they don't support him. Yeah, that to me is the scariest thing going on in this country today. Is the Christians? I go to a Christian church downtown, and it was made known to me pretty early on. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about the Schaeffer situation. And we're commanded to go and visit prisoners and to be aware, that the powers that be are not, don't favor Christians. That's why Christ was crucified.
Right.
And, so it's people need to, Christians need to say, we've got to really be discerning.
I'm gonna send you an envelope full of stuff, and then you can just keep going with this if you want. You just keep going on with this one thing here. His so-called attorney said that he had a form of mental illness, and Cox should indefinitely be detained for forced treatment in prison, because he's delusional. And it is sickening. It's sickening how he's been destroyed, and we need this guy to make USA great again, quote,
Unbelievable. That's disgusting. I'm looking right here. I want to push this out here for everybody that's listening. You can donate to Schaeffer Cox's commissary. He's also capable of using those funds in his commissary for legal fees, and he desperately needs that. And if you grab a pen, paper, whatever, and write this address down, okay? The address is Federal Bureau of Prisons, Francis Schaeffer Cox. That's SCHAEFFER, Cox, COX. And number 16179-006. Post Office Box 474701, Des Moines, Iowa 509 247-0001. We'll get that on later on the show as well. And keep in mind with this, you cannot, actually I have it here, do not send cash, do not send personal checks. They will not take it. I'm looking at it. I got to scroll down here. I forgot. I know they take money orders,
Postal,
Western Union, money orders, and MoneyGram. That's the other one. That's what they'll take. One of the three: Western Union, MoneyGram, or money orders. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
Yeah. No, you got it. Good job.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll give that out later on in the show as well. We'll feed that. Well, what are your guys? What do you think we can remedy this? How can we correct this problem here? Because obviously there's a problem.
Exposure. More people know about it. Then where they're going to go with this stuff. Pretty soon He's going to have a movie come out. They got him locked up to shut him up. Pretty soon the movie's going to come out down the street. What are they going to do? They lose.
Right. Well, speaking of that, we have talked briefly yesterday about how there is going to be a movie about that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I've just heard that there's going to be a movie about it, and you could even Google the thing. It was on what the name of the movie is. Plan 241 is the movie. I think I Googled that, if I'm not mistaken. Plan 241, Schaeffer Cox movie, and it should pop up, I would think.
Plan 241, okay. Let me see if I can't find that quick.
And that is about it's about his story and the sordid details.
I have it. Right. Yeah, I have it right here. As a matter of fact, the project. Plan 241 is a feature-length documentary film currently in pre-production that tells the story of the FBI investigation into the controversial Alaska militia leader Schaeffer Cox, and it goes on. So there is going to be right
now. The spotlight's on them by millions of people around the world. What are they going to do?
Right. Exactly. This. Oh my God! You and I were talking. There's more. You gave me a few links yesterday. S2197 fairness.
Regina Imburgia.
Oh shoot. Sorry, everybody.
Reading evidence presented in court, but somehow nobody ever thought about Schaeffer with that law,
Right.
So there is a S2197. Lisa Murkowski's law, 2012.
Right, with the 112th Congress, 2011, 2012. I'm looking at it right now, and that was even brought up in his favor when it came to that.
No, he never had exonerating evidence.
Right. Now, what's with... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm looking for something.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was looking at this article here about, I guess he has this other friend, Mike Anderson. Basically, he said the hit list, or the target list, was a complete fabrication by the prosecution. What's your thoughts on that there, Maria?
Yeah, if you dig into it and find out what the FBI took from Mike Anderson's place, it was, it just was, he had some information on a piece of paper on his stove, maybe somebody's name or something, and they took that and they called it the hit list. But I've talked to Mike extensively about that, about anything that he was involved in as far as working with Schaeffer, and it wasn't from the same time period. It was from a much earlier time. I guess they had been talking at some point when the Liberty Bell Network was being created, and they were talking about what would happen if we had a global meltdown in the financial system. And this was in they were friends, and they were talking in 2007, 2008 time period, trying to figure out what to do to prepare. And they just generally felt like they needed to know who was in law enforcement at the time. And so they were, dealing with that and talking about going and visiting people, going and sitting down and visiting with some of the law enforcement officers to find out, for example, which military members and which law enforcement members would do basically the same concept as oath keepers. Would you hold your oath, or would you take people's guns? And so if there was any talk about law enforcement in their conversations, it was about to find out which ones would uphold their oath and which ones would basically just follow orders blindly. So, and so that list was no list was ever produced in evidence, apparently, and so. It was a boogeyman. Lots and lots of the things that the prosecution brought up in the trial were boogeymen. There was a supposedly some kind of a plot in relation to something that the guys went out to do. They were going to have an appearance on a local television show to talk about the militia, and they had planned to go out to this show, and they put their plans up on a whiteboard, and they were concerned that if law enforcement interfaced with them, that they should, how should they behave? How should they react or not react to that situation? So they had these plans, written on a board, and instead of, the picture of what was on the whiteboard, instead of that harming Schaeffer, it ended up helping him, because it basically said, if you do interface with law enforcement, these are the proper things to do, and it turns out that there are things that are lawfully the proper thing that you'd want your own children to do. So they brought charges based on this same incident, and it's just such a mess. The jury didn't buy it. The jury told them that theory is bad, and so apparently throughout the trial, the prosecution kept changing theories. Oh, okay, so the jury doesn't like that one. Let's try this one. Let's go on a whole new theory. And so they just kept going until he was basically convicted for something that he might possibly be able to do in the future. So, again, 1984, future crime,
right.
Minority Report kind of thought crime stuff.
Absolutely. Now, I noticed that also here there was they tried to get them on conspiracy to basically, I'm looking here, basically a conspiracy to commit murder, but against a state trooper. And I'm seeing here that the charges were dropped. This is, I guess, if I'm understanding this correctly, the charges were against both Anderson and Cox, but the charges were dropped because they couldn't use the FBI's recording, which were gathered without a search warrant. So they kind of dropped that. They couldn't pursue that. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. So that might be what you're talking about. Must be what is called the state case, and that's the one that Robert John was able to defend Schaeffer successfully against, the state charges. Okay. And as soon as it looks like the state case wasn't going to result in a conviction, that's when the federal prosecutors decided that they needed to prosecute him in a federal jurisdiction. And what allowed them to do this was the Patriot Act. They could... What's not allowed in the state of Alaska because of our Declaration of Rights and our right to privacy is allowed under the Patriot Act by the feds.
Right.
So it's almost like double jeopardy.
Oh, absolutely. You're right. You're 110% correct. I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is that, you look at the Patriot Act and the whole See Something, Say Something Act and the NDAA that the last two that Obama created, this is how they play together. People can go ahead. Someone can just turn around and make a lie about you and invoke the See Something, Say Something Act. Okay? Then, boom, they can invoke the Patriot Act and come seize your stuff, take everything you want, blah, blah, and invoke the NDAA and permanently detain you without representation, without a jury of your peers, without nothing. They could just come in and take everything, search everything, seize everything, take you away, lock you up without no representation, and nobody would know the difference. And to me, I'm sorry, but it sounds a lot like what these CMUs are. You know, it's like a process. The See Something, Say Something Act, you know, then, like I said, you got the Patriot Act, and then it's the NDAA, and you're gone. You know, and they get away with this all the time. It's essentially what happened, I think, in Schaeffer Cox, it sounds like. A little more intricate, perhaps. I mean, but this is what it is. You know, and I'm going to read something here that, where it says here, the jury never got to hear the portion of the, I guess it's a tape. It was from a 6-hour meeting with Schaeffer Cox, where they were talking about the 2-for-1 saying, and this is what Schaeffer said right here. And it's obviously public knowledge here. It says, I'm not motivated by wanting to see their heads roll. I'm motivated by wanting my family to live free and prosperous and happy. And with that, he's talking to the Olson, that FBI informant, because you were talking about the 2-for-1 and stuff like that, or any sort of a very aggressive, offensive maneuver. Seems like to me, given the circumstances, that would be more along the lines of looking for a fight rather than strategically and prudently waging a war. At least right now, I can't speak to the future, but I can say I think for right now that a 2-for-1 is or would be running ahead of the scale and sacrificing yourself to no avail. I lost my house, my business, my whole fortune, and I could, if I was looking for a fight and I was feeling vengeful, what's wrong with feeling vengeful? He goes, I've been wronged. I could go out and I could find and I could sock it to him, and that would satisfy my animalistic reaction. But would it? It would be a detriment to the war, because only when there is no future and there is no hope for my life and for my children can I then spend myself in costing the enemy. Because costing the enemy is not my objective. I would forgive them and have all sorts of redemption and go to a picnic with them if they'd leave me alone. He says, I don't have any hatred towards them. I mean, so after all of that, he still didn't have any hatred towards me. He didn't have any anger. He didn't feel like, going out and cracking some skulls. It just wasn't within his nature. So would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, he's not a vengeful person.
Right.
No, not at all. And there were numerous times where he said, we're not going to pull a Rambo. And to me, I think he was just a good leader one of the duties of a good leader is to realize that they're going to get people in these militias. They're going to get people coming in to try to do good who are vengeful. And so it was his obligation to try to, not alienate the guy, not knowing he was a federal agent at the time, but just not alienate the guy and just be a good leader and tell him, no, vengeance is not ours. It's not ours. We're just going to maintain and be prudent. And I think he was he's just a prudent man.
Right. Well, I noticed, like you were saying, he had the saying that we're not doing a Rambo, but we're going to pull a Gandhi. And he was just not he was not a vengeful person. He was, me, I'm more like the warrior. I'm the soldier. I'll go out there. I don't care. He was more like the person that, like he was, a motivational speaker, in a sense, if that makes any sense. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, he wanted to talk about economics, but everybody around here wanted to talk about the Second Amendment. So, he was studying. He was working for Ron Paul, and they were studying economics, and just wasn't interesting to people. So, but you can talk about God's law versus man's law from the standpoint of the Second Amendment just as well as you can from any other perspective. So,
right. We have a question from one of our we have like his messaging system as well, and they want to know about his lawyer. Could the lawyer speak against his client, slandering his client?
Okay, did the lawyer speak against his client?
Oh, we got a bad connection.
Yeah, if you have a bad echo out here. If someone's on a Bluetooth, yeah, you can't really use. There's no Bluetooth.
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Let's see. One of our there we go. Sounds better there. One of our listeners wanted to know about his lawyer. Could the lawyer speak against his client, meaning slandering his client? Schaeffer Cox's client. I'm assuming that's what they're meaning here. If his lawyers kind of slandered him, or kind of did he basically do everything that he possibly could?
The lawyer in the federal case, I'm assuming, it's a little confusing because there were two trials. There were two cases going on, and he did win a state case. The lawyer in the federal case, the trial lawyer, was Nelson Traverso, and I wouldn't say that he slandered Schaeffer. I just believe myself that it was ineffective assistance of counsel. There were lots of things that he could do. He was also very sick during the trial and wasn't really thinking well or functioning well. There was a lot to that, just that aspect of it.
Right.
But now, slander, I wouldn't say slander.
Right. Well, I mean, like he won the state case, and I'm trying. Like I said, I've been trying to understand this whole case and reading it. Now he won the state case, but that's when the feds kicked in. Now that was they were charging him with different stuff, right? On the federal level, or they were charging him with the same stuff.
Yeah, they had a series of superseding indictments. So I think there was a series of 4 or 5 indictments, and they kept trying to indict him on different things. And now we're finding out that no true bill was ever returned by a grand jury. The government has no record of any true bill.
Really?
So no indictment.
And part of his weapons charge, he got a weapons charge. Part of that was practice hand grenades you can buy at the gun shows, for $10.
Right.
It's just a piece of metal is all it is. And he got it for having that, and then something else, and they thought he was going to do something with it, that he never did. So I tell you.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say, I just got a note. My husband walked in and said, slander, yes. There was an attorney. I'd forgotten he had several public defenders. There was an attorney but this was after the trial. This was during the appeal process. He had a public defender out of Seattle, Washington, named Suzanne Elliott, and she actually did slander him. Yep.
Yep, she's the one that said that. She's the one that said he was delusional and needed to be held in prison and have forced therapy.
Forced therapy. Wow.
What does all that involve, And
that kind of sounds like an MK Ultra experiment right there, forced therapy.
As soon as she said that, she was gone, pretty much. She had been filing complaints with the Washington State Bar, and they were ignoring them, but as soon as it was shown that she said that, she was out. So she got knocked out, and then they put in Myra's son, who was in San Francisco, and Schaeffer did his level best to work with her, except she did file a brief, but later Schaeffer knocked her out too. Knocked her out of the running for being his public defender because she refused to basically talk about crimes that had been committed during the trial by her fellow bar members that were the prosecutors. So he wants the whole thing vetted and appealed properly, and she refused to do it. So she's gone. And the current public defender is Michael Filipovich, and he's also out of Seattle, Washington, but has done a really good job, and Schaeffer's approved everything that, or I shouldn't say that, I should say he approved and let Michael Filipovich do the appeal brief, the first direct appeal brief of the trial. So,
right. Well, we have another question from a listener here. They're saying it seems as I'm sorry. Let me scroll up here. It's going down here. Most people who are in public office wouldn't necessarily be involved in the militia movement. What led him to be in the militia?
To be in the militia, I would.
Go ahead, Brian.
Schaeffer wanted me to join, and I thought about it, but then I thought, they wanted to go on maneuvers and, hike, run through the hills and get packs, and I said, man, I have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, I'm too old. I'm too old to get involved in the militia thing, and something in the back of my mind thought, yeah, somebody's got to be on the outside to help these guys get out of jail, and that didn't come from me.
Yeah, right. You got a good point there. When they're framed like this, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what we're going to do here? Right. You're right. What we're going to do here, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick few-minute break, and we're going to come back and continue the conversation and figure out what we can do. Now we kind of got everybody up to speed. What can we do for Schaeffer and for this whole situation? So stick around, and we will be right back.
Copy that. Good job, guys.
Showtimes and more. Our phone number is 213-943-3451. The Patriot Watch, a place where you will always find the purity of truth.
All right, thanks for hanging out with us here, sticking around with us. Give me a quick announcement. I'll let everybody know that we are going to have one of our affiliates, Ron McDonald, with his book, Arlington Anthology, on Tuesday, January 17th, at our show, 9 o'clock p.m. I also, towards the end of this month here, we're going to have our other affiliate, Robert E. Schubert, on here with his books, Treaded on Me, Volumes 1 and 2. So you don't want to miss those shows whatsoever. Let's go ahead and bring back our buddy Kurt here, our other host. This wants to work for me. Kurt, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, buddy, I'm still here. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, so what is your take on all this so far? What's going on with Schaeffer and all these CMUs, Guantanamos?
That sounds like typical government corruption shit to me. I didn't get through a whole lot of research on Mr. Cox, but from what I could tell, he was just an average guy. He stood up for what was right.
Absolutely.
I noticed that he, that they collected all various types of weapons. Some of which being silencers, grenade launchers, and stuff like that. And they weren't. I guess in this day and age, we're only allowed to have like deer rifles and shotguns or whatever. So they basically did everything in their power to shut him down. And like I think as Maria was saying earlier, it's just we're just inching closer and closer to that world order that they kept talking about. It's anybody that speaks up or anybody that tries to stand up for the Constitution and what our rights are supposed to be and be about, that you wind up either dead or in one of those miniature Guantanamo Bay type situations.
Right. It's like I was saying to my right. It was kind of like what I was saying in the opening statement. It was like, there's a list of families and individuals and organizations or whatnot. They're either shut up and put into one of these CMUs, or they're put 6 feet under. Like I said before, in the Clinton body count, the Obama body count, Hammond's, Bundy's. They're just Ruby Ridge, Waco. Oh my God, history just shows us a list of individuals and families and stuff that have gone through hell and back, all for standing up for what they believe in, whether it's land grab or whether it's constitutional rights. I mean, whether standing up for your family, and the father getting shut down in court. I mean, they're just completely destroying and dividing everybody in this country. Would that be a fair assessment in your eyes? I mean, what do you think?
I was saying that's exactly right. I mean, it goes back to like the list that I mentioned the other day about the types of potential terrorists. I'm sure he was on there. I'm on there. All of us are on there. What we're doing right now probably considered potential terrorists. It's getting ridiculous. I'm surprised we haven't heard anything from the FBI yet.
I know. It's like, I was on my computer yesterday, evening, about roughly now, well, a little bit, maybe an hour or two ago from now. But, yesterday, and all of a sudden the doorbell rang. Well, she ordered food, and I didn't know she did. So, I'm sitting in the kitchen at my computer, and the doorbell rings, and I hear her open up the door. I'm waiting to hear, like, jingling of the car keys. I'm waiting to hear, like, a walkie-talkie go off, and I was going to be like, oh, here we go. Because, I'm very vocal when it comes to these guys. And like I said, they already paid me a visit the summer of 2011, and I know they've been taking pictures of me. I know they've been following me. I know they've been watching me. I know I'm on the list and blah, blah, blah. I'm just waiting for the federal ferries to pay me a visit. I'm not going to fight them. I'm just going to laugh at them, whatever. I'll be released here shortly. It is. Huh?
We've been taught, pretty much everybody's been taught to consume and obey, and if we don't follow those guidelines, we're pretty much, we're the outcast group.
No, absolutely. And you're right, and a lot of that was outlined in the, I made up this, I didn't make it up. It's from basically a video, and I was giving excerpts on it and added some of my opinion into it as well, of instruction manual for a revolution, And a couple of people asked me, how much do you want for it? I ain't charging them for this. Take it here. So anybody that was asking me on Messenger, here, I'll send it to you in a file or something like that. And we can't, as much as a lot of us want to, and as much as a lot of us believe that, it's well overdue. We should have started shooting people a long time ago. And just cleaning house. Because our founding fathers would have done that. But, it's what I was saying in one of my posts on Facebook, Fedbook, not long ago, the other day, that, our founding fathers didn't have anything to fall back on. There was literally nothing but the rule of England. But we have something to fall back on. We have the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, Articles of Confederation. There's several things that we can fall back on and learn from. And I think it's important that we need to educate ourselves first before we go out there and do anything stupid that we might regret, in all honesty. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against, curb stomping somebody. As much as that sounds stupid, and sounds ignorant, but that's what revolution is all about. That's what, in order to eradicate violence and or tyranny, it's going to take violence. It's not going to take rainbows and unicorns and cupcakes. It's just not going to do that.
I was wondering about how we're supposed to have the right to keep and bear arms, but what about the part where it says, that we're supposed to have sufficient arms, in case of a tyrannical government? That's basically like Mr. Cox. He was, amassing some sufficient arms, and they don't like that. They frown on that kind of stuff. It's getting crazy. I've heard numerous things about them trying to limit the amount of magazines you can have for different assault rifles if they if we're even allowed to have them pretty much longer. We're not set. We're set up to fail, basically. If we can't have our sufficient arms, then what good are we going to do? We can't, like you said, we can't fight them with damn leprechauns and unicorns.
Right. It's the same thing with all these, these knuckleheads that are these millennials and whatnot screaming revolution. What are they going to fight with? Dildos and bongs? We have to be realistic. There are so many ass clowns out there when it comes to all of this. You know, I mean, whether it's restricting our rights, you have some idiot like Kevin DeLeon telling you that a bullet, the bullet button, which is actually just a button that releases the magazine, you know, on your AR, they're calling that a bullet button. How it, you know, pressing that, it turns your firearm into a, you know, an assault rifle. You know, where I keep telling people, assault is an action. It's an action. You know, I mean, it's the person holding the firearm that commits the defense or the assault. It's not the inanimate object that's doing it. You know, you got stupid people out there will believe everything they hear. You know, and there's so much disinformation out there that you know. And I think what Schaeffer went through was completely wrong. And just like what Maria was saying, when it comes to the militias in their area, you know, throwing him under the bus. You know, say, well, you got what you deserved, or whatever, anything else they're saying, or whatever, you know, and it's just like, that's not being a patriot. You know, I mean, when I see people like that, I just want to throat punch them. You know, how dare you sit there and say you're an oath keeper, or you could very well be a veteran and have actually served your country, actually seen battle or whatever, and turn around and say that to somebody who verbally fought for your rights. Even though Schaeffer didn't necessarily say go and serve his country, go into war and see action, but he was fighting on the home front for people's rights.
Yeah.
And for people to turn around and say that to him and turn their back on him, you're right, buddy. It's not right.
I mean, he's not sitting there for until like 2030, I believe is what it was. I mean, he's pretty. I mean, they want him to rot in jail for trying to stand up for, you know, for their rights up there.
Yeah, I mean, this guy had his life together. I mean, he had it together, and it was rubbing elbows with very important people at a young age, you know, and saying what, kind of like what Trump was doing, excuse me, you know, saying the right things to the right people, you know, but unfortunately in this case, he was saying the right things to the wrong people, you know, and that, you know, they caught wind of what he was saying, you know, and, you know, and here goes the whole thing when we talk about, sorry, I'm switching people over here. This is when we come back and we talk about people's freedoms, you know, and when is enough enough? You know, I mean, when are we going to say, you know, I don't know, but I guess a part of me is at a loss for words, you know. Matter of fact, I'm sitting there looking, and it looks like we lost a couple of our guest speakers here. Let's see if we can't get them back. Let me get with my crew here. If we can get them back. Sometimes we drop people on here, and on our show. And it's not our show per se, but it is our what do you call it? This third-party deal. Again, that's why we need to upgrade, because the more when we upgrade our show, we'll be able to broadcast directly from our website, not go through a third party here, where a lot of times the connections are bad. People are, you know, the calls are dropped and whatnot. But you know, let's what's that, buddy?
I was just saying it's kind of hard for people to get to the show and get to tune in, you know, from the different channels that we're having to go through. Like, you know, it's kind of spread out. It's like, you know, we got 3 or 4 different locations, and it's, you know, we need to consolidate and get.
Well, that's why, you know, we're listening. I don't know what they can do, if there's anything at all, but, you know, you got people, we have like callers, or not callers, but listeners in 7 different countries, you know, and hopefully, you know, they'll be able to donate to Schaeffer Cox, you know, to his commissary. You know, I mean, that's the least they can do. They're not here in the United States, you know, and protesting and doing whatever, you know, anything along those lines. As a matter of fact, I'm going to repeat his information here real quick for all of you listeners out there that are listening. You can donate money to his commissary, which he can use for legal fees, and he desperately needs that. If you get it, again, get a pen and paper. Federal Bureau of Prisons, Francis Schaeffer Cox. Again, that's SCHAEFFER, Cox, COX. Number 16179-006. Post Office Box 474701, Des Moines, Iowa 50947-0001. And I mean, what do you think? I mean, I guess they're trying to get our callers back here. What is your take on this, buddy? I mean, as far as what do you think can be done? What's the road taken? I mean, obviously, I know we can do things like this with the radio show, but do you know of anything else that can be done with this to help him out? I mean, he needs to get out of it, you know.
Yeah. It's sad to say, I really don't know of anything. I mean, once you get stuck in the system, it wears you down. It wears you down. The group that he was in, the militia, the Patriot group that he was in, I don't understand why they can't, come up to the plate for him. But I mean, I'm not even sure what the actual charges were. I mean, other than the attempted conspiracy, murder type shit, but he didn't ever do any of that. I mean, it was
right.
Basically, he was just trying to stand up for the people in his town.
Right, absolutely. I'm gonna bring on our buddy Slider here and see what he has to say here in his voice. How you doing, Slider?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I like where you're going with it. Yeah, I don't remember exactly all the charges, but I know that what charges that he's in prison for. He should have at least filed a habeas corpus by now. I believe that somebody from the NLA is working on his case. I've talked to several individuals that keep directing me back over to the NLA. So I would get a hold of Ollie Smith. He's over in Colorado. He's working on Joe Robertson's case. But I know that there's some paperwork filed. I just haven't followed that case that far.
Right. Absolutely. Because something has to be done here. I mean, I don't know if a double jeopardy clause comes into effect here. That's what I'm trying to the research here that I'm looking at, and to see if I understand it. If maybe he was charged federally, what he was already charged and found innocent of statewide.
Right.
Yeah. What was that, Kurt? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
That was Slider.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it was just. What is your take? I mean, on this Slider? I mean, everything this guy's gone through.
Well, I don't believe that he should be incarcerated at all. First of all, basically, he got railroaded in. Basically, what it is whenever anybody comes out and steps up to the plate and starts shining the light into the darkness being Admiralty Court system, they try to shut him down. They done the same thing to LaBoy. Numerous people have been incarcerated just to get him out of the way. He had a good voice. Up in Alaska, a lot of people were paying attention to him. I was paying attention to him. I'd listened to him. I've talked to him a couple of times a couple of years ago, and basically the guy was pretty squared away. He had everything going for him. Somewhere along the line, with some authority, didn't like what he was saying, so they just swept him under the rug like they do most of us.
Right, exactly. And I can't get over. I think it is so wrong with that. I gotta say it again and emphasize it. That all these militias and patriots up there in his hometown throwing him under the bus and basically turning their backs on him. I mean, again, it's the whole division thing, people. I mean, somebody's verbally fighting for your rights. You don't throw them under the bus.
Right.
I don't know,
basically,
man. We're trying to get this all back. What's it? I'm sorry?
He was also a supporter of Sarah Palin. He was worked as a delegate in Alaska, gathering for the Continental Congress of 2009. He was also an organizing member of the Fairbanks Second Amendment Task Force. He was gathering the group in 2009. He also drafted a declaration that the United States government must be abolished if it further restricts gun rights. The declaration was also signed by many, including State Representative Don Young, Cox also repeatedly identified himself as a member of the sovereign citizen movement. So that right there is what got the flags drawn high, because the federal government does not like sovereign citizen. They've taken away most of our sovereign rights as it is. This is a sovereign country, and each state is a republic. But because of the trickery in the government since the Northern aggression, our rights and everything have been stepped on, and a lot of people just don't understand what's really going on. He's also supported another representative, and that representative had an unsuccessful bid to the United States Senate in 2010. But he basically wanted to run things more in a conservative way. He wanted the same fundamental rights and amendments that were doctored in from our founding fathers, and they basically just came in and put him away for failure to. Let's see here, I got his record. I just pulled it up for failing to disclose a concealed weapon, reckless endangerment. So it's like, come on, man. You know, we're technically. We're all supposed to be able to carry a weapon, no matter, even if you got a felony, according to the founding fathers.
Absolutely,
so
you're right.
That I got to use.
With that, that's the one thing. Even Schaeffer was known for saying that, you know, if he'd have known now what he or known then what he knew now, you know, that he would have accepted the plea deal that they tried to get him on for the 2 minor weapons charges. You know, and because it would have completely avoided the conspiracy and the solicitation of murder to the murder counts altogether. You know, because they would have gotten him. You know, they would have gotten him on something, but then he didn't want to play ball with them. And then actually, I wouldn't have played ball either. I mean, if you're an ardent patriot and you stand firm in what you believe in, you're not going to cop a plea deal. You know, you're not going to lie on for your behalf. You're going to stick to your guns because you know in your heart of hearts that you're right. You know, and it really sucks because even he said that in his trial, the prosecution was telling this huge scary story about what he might have done if they hadn't taken him out. You know, and they tried to block it. They blocked the jurors from seeing any truth about what he actually did do in real life. You know, they took all that out. They just purposely painted this picture that he was just the militia, weapons charges, bad man, you know, like a Timothy McVeigh kind of, you know, just lone wolf out there wanted to just kill everybody. And they didn't even say anything about what the guy actually did do in real life.
Right.
They completely just screwed this guy and threw him under the bus.
So he's going to sit in prison until 2033, which is totally wrong.
No, I mean, these kids are going to be grown adults by then. You know, you can't even hug them as of right now. You know, I mean, what is your take here, Brian? I mean, well, you know, we got Brian back here. What's your take on this, buddy?
I think it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen happen to anybody. You know, the guy totally doesn't deserve this. And I retired 3.5 years ago. And I worked on it from day one, but now this is all I've done since I retired was help him, do stuff for him, you know, et cetera, look up things and whatever I can do to help him for 6 years, because this has got to be stopped, because I don't want my kid, my nephew's kids or something, you know, going to jail because of these evil idiots, you know.
Right.
If they don't like the government doing, they're going to get locked in prison. You know, what is that?
Right. You're right. You're 110% correct. I mean, even like they're sitting there saying that Karen, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but Karen Loeffler, she's the U.S. attorney. Loeffler. Yeah, she's the U.S. attorney for the District of Alaska, and she's also the one that is responsible for Schaeffer's incarceration. You know,
exactly,
because all of this took place under her watch. And she allowed this to happen. I mean, that nuts woman looks like an Ewok, you know, from Star Wars.
Oh my God! Yeah,
happened under her watch. I mean, she's no different than Eric Holder.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, here's her telephone number. It came out in the U.S. Observer News. You want me to give her telephone number, Karen Loeffler, and
yeah, go ahead. I got it right here too, buddy. Go ahead. Yeah, give it out.
Yeah, call her office at 907-271-5071. And that's the Anchorage prosecutor's office, and that was fresh out of the U.S. Observer News that I'm going to mail you in the mail.
Good. We're probably going to do another show about this, kind of do follow-ups and keep up, up to date what's going on with him and the state of affairs. But I want to repeat that number. It's 907-271-5071. And to get a hold of Karen Loeffler, she is, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Alaska. And she's the one that is responsible for this. She let it happen.
She's the one that's sitting up there proud as she can be, huh?
Right.
My God.
One thing I can't find out, whatever happened to Olson and the other knucklehead? Were they exonerated of their Fulton? That's what it is, Bill Fulton.
No.
Were they barred up for crimes or something, or whatever happened?
I don't know about Fulton, but here, this is Gerald J.R. Olson. The U.S. Observer has a poster out on him. Most wanted, Gerald R. Olson, for all these, federal informant doing this and that and the other thing, you name it, J.R. Olson is wanted by U.S. Observer, and I guess they're going to pay him some money, so it's a wanted poster out for him. I have right there.
I'll send
you that. I will send you
absolutely.
that,
I did. Yeah, anything you've got, absolutely send it my way, because this has got to get out there. This is pathetic. And these CMUs, it's not only just how they went about. There's so much wrong to all of this. Not just how they did him wrong, but where they put him. In these CMUs.
He did
all of
something
this is wrong. Right. It's like he's some kind of. He's basically a political prisoner. That's essentially what he is.
Sure.
To shut him up. But to put him in a CMU, you got, what makes me mad here is you've got, people like him as a political prisoner just because he's voicing his opinion. He has the freedom of speech. But yet you're going to put him in some kind of isolation, experimental isolation crap here. But yet you're going to get pedophiles and murderers a second chance and let them out.
Oh, yeah, they're being released on the street by every day. But you'll never see a good Christian family man that hasn't done anything wrong let out on the street with his family. You won't see that.
Right. And it coincidentally was just, I can't remember what month, but it was just sometime last year that President Obama, he actually, him and his administration, they had released I think 24,000 illegal immigrant criminals right onto our streets. Sending them back overseas. He released them into our streets, but let's go ahead and lock up someone like Schaeffer Cox, in something like that.
That's his army. Those are our replacements, see?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, and it's just, I was talking, like I said, I was talking to Angela. I want to connect the dots some more. Like I said, I found out that, and I know I'm repeating myself, but for those that didn't hear earlier, that I was listening to Will Potter's speech, that he was talking about this, about 15, 16 minutes long, and he was talking about a prisoner in McGowan and how the warden wanted to release McGowan on good behavior, but the Bureau of Prisons Counterterrorism Unit overrode the ruling of the warden and said, no, he can't leave, he's got to stay. Well, they are directly involved with the FBI, which is under James Comey, and apparently, FBI directors are appointed by the POTUS. So, but I'd like to delve in even more and do some research and find out who is actually running this. Because it's so secretive. Who owns it? Where's the money coming from? Is it our pockets? What's going on with it? And when we find it out, I like to blow it up, throw it all out there.
Yeah.
But it needs to be found out.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll look like the evil. He'll look like the evil, slimy rat he is.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Angela's actually texting me messaging me right now here. She's saying someone has written a book about Fulton coming out in May, like he's a hero. And as a matter of speaking of which, and Fulton is the the other FBI informant, William Fulton. He's the other FBI informant. Yeah. He wrote, as a matter of fact, speaking of that, he's writing his own book and about this incident. And now this is according to him, and we'll have to wait to see when it comes out. But according to him, he's basically throwing himself under the bus and admitting that he screwed up and what he did was wrong to Schaeffer. You know,
really,
and that's what it says here. Yeah, and also, like I said, my friend Angela is she apparently someone else is writing a book, but what they're trying to make it out is if Fulton is a hero. So I mean, regardless, hero, whatever, both these guys are ass clowns for what they did. You know, to Schaeffer, an innocent person.
They probably started writing a hero book, and he felt so guilty that he just broke down and admitted it, huh?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Well, that's amazing. Praise the Lord.
It is. Yeah.
He's had some prayers for him, boy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Once this gets out here, I mean, honestly, and people start realizing who these two clowns are, you know, and what they were involved in and stuff like that, you know, give it time. You know, because I think the American people will probably take these two punks out. Personally,
yeah.
You know, I know if I saw either one of them, I'd be curb stomping them for what they did. You know, that's completely wrong to destroy someone's life. I mean, there's even an up-to-date picture. For those of you that haven't seen, you didn't see Schaeffer Cox before all of this, and maybe even during it. You know, the guy was a clean-cut guy. Clean shaven, hair.
Hey, you know,
very well. Yeah, he held himself well.
Homeschooled. His mom and dad.
Absolutely.
Mom was a teacher. Dad is a Christian pastor, and they homeschooled their kids. And and Schaeffer is phenomenal. He's just educated. You know, he's educated like they used to get educated, but not in the schools nowadays. Not in the public school nowadays. He's a guy you could tell he never went to public school. He's smart, and sit there and call him delusional, and he needs forced therapy. That's criminal, man. That's attempted murder, I think. That's murder.
It is.
His mind, you know, maybe not his body, but they murdering his mind and his life.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I can't imagine.
We're going to take a.
You know,
what's that? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I can't imagine seeing your little girl for the first time in 5 years and not being able to kiss her, hug her. That is just, you know, God's got to step in here.
Well, absolutely. You know, that's something else too. I mean, they took them across the United States too. So it's not like every weekend or something. You know, and his wife can take their two kids and go see Dad, you know, or something like that. I mean, it's probably once in a very while. I mean, that's a lot of money to be generating to go there every so often, you know?
Sure. Just for that purpose, you know, it makes him stay away and forgotten, and his community doesn't know him, and nobody remembers him, and that's what they want, you know? And then they take him in that jail as a good, patriotic, American, educated citizen leader type, and he comes out a sap a lot of times, but this time this guy's coming out stronger for it.
Right. Absolutely.
I can tell. I've seen his picture, and there's just a look of confidence, like he's at a picnic or something. You know, it's amazing.
Right.
So I just keep going. I just keep going with him.
It's unreal. We have our friend here, Shaq. Shaq, how you doing?
Hey, how y'all doing, brother?
All right, brother. What is your take on the Schaeffer Cox and what he's gone through and still going through?
My only thing would be with Schaeffer Cox, I have to know what his status was when he went to court. That's always the first issue at law is status. If he is a citizen, a corporate citizen of the United States, the corporation, then they have every right to do what they want to do with him. Because he gave his consent. Right. He gave his consent by being a registered voter or through that birth certificate. Or through having an address as a corporation. Because like I said before, flesh and blood human beings don't have addresses. Only corporations have addresses. That's why your name in all capital letters is a corporation, controlled by the corporation called the United States of America. United States for the Republic of North America. Once people understand law and status, they can get out of this crap, and then you go back to being a 10th Amendment protected citizen under the United States for the under the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America. You have 10th Amendment protected citizen rights, not policy. Under the corporation, right? Because under a corporation, you have policies and not rights. Right. Those policies can be given or taken, and those policies, or what they call, it's a privilege. On the corporate status, you have privileges. But under your 10th Amendment, under the original United States, is a right. And that's what people, I'm going to keep banging on that and banging on that and banging on that until people understand and they wake up.
What are some of the steps to changing your status to keep this from happening to other patriots?
Yeah, other so-called patriots need to know this. Are you a citizen of the United States Republic for North America? Or are you a citizen of the United States of America, the corporation? You got to find out in your heart. You got to do your research and find out the difference between the two.
Yeah, but when it comes to Schaeffer Cox, though, I mean, it's a little late for that. You know, I mean, for him I got my intel here is telling me that actually, apparently, Schaeffer was put in the general population at the prison for 6 months, and he was able to actually. I'm looking up here. Get to hug his daughter in a visit. You know, so at least he got to see his daughter once or maybe twice. Get to hug her. You know, in her first 5 years, but then they put him right back into the CMU. You know, and you're right, Shaq. I mean, you're right about the whole people of your status and this and that and the other. You're absolutely right. But when it comes to Schaeffer, it's kind of like a done deal. You know, it's already said and done. I mean, it doesn't matter if he changes his status now or what, even if he's able to at this point. You know, I guess what we need to focus on is what do we need to do to help him out? Yeah, get people to donate to his commentary because he can use it for legal fees. You know, give him moral support. Give him a moral and emotional support. You know,
right? Let me say this right now. He's in the belly of the beast, right? He's going to have to do like other prisoners who've been incarcerated and been done wrong. He's going to have to change his status while he's in there and not get. You know, I know you're going to have to you're going to have to dance with the devil, an attorney, which is not a real lawyer, but that's a whole nother story. But you're going to have to deal with an attorney and change, and he's got to get out of being a registered voter because that's a criminal act in itself called misprison. When you walked away from the republic and you signed up to be in this corporation. So once he changed his status, they can have no jurisdiction over him, and then he comes out of that American citizen status to corporation status of being a debt.
Hey, Shaq. Yes, can you hear me? This is Carrie. I have a question. Okay, so I was reading about Schaeffer, and I've heard that he can't change his attorney. That he has tried, and he's to his last one. He's on his fourth one. They're not going to let him get another attorney. He's stuck with the one he has. So I'm not sure if I was just wondering. I'm not sure if you can talk to any attorney and have them help you with that, or if you have to have one that specializes in it.
It's hard to find an attorney that'll do it.
Or better yet, what's going to have to happen is somebody like Kurt Cullenback. He's going to have to talk to somebody who's not an attorney, who can go and get his signature, meaning the flesh and blood he signed off for them to go and change his status, bring him the paperwork so he can do it while he's in jail. Because because an attorney is only someone who is in place of the person that is in charge to do business, and their first duty and loyalty is always to the court.
See, but yeah, and you're right. But the question that we have to not question, but what we have to keep in mind is he's not in the general prison population, though. He's in the CMU, which there's a lot more restrictions than anybody else. So, which might be why. I mean, that might be why. Maybe in conjunction too, is they just want to keep him screwed over. Like he can't change attorneys, like Terry was saying. So. Would he even, considering he's in the CMU, would he even be able to, I guess is the question, to change his status while he's in there? And would it even affect the outcome, considering it's already a done deal?
Right. This is what I'm saying, right? The first thing about, that's what I told you about law and status. That's his status while he's in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he has to like if his wife comes down, and y'all giving him the right law books, like I said, with Kirk Cullenback, to walk him through this thing, he can change his status while he's in there.
Do you have references to the law books?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He needs to get right. That's why I told you. That's why I said to y'all. The first thing I said to y'all when I called the program is watch the video, "Season of Treason" by Kirk Cullenback. Now I've already vetted it, because I already knew previous information before I saw him. But he does a great job of breaking everything down simply. But then I also told y'all about the essays of what happened to this world that was written by Nicole Terry. The essays explain what happened, and that's all in the congressional record about how they changed their status. Right? Because once you become, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, once you become a member of Congress, what they do, they sign you on to the United States, the corporation's debt as a debtor. And as a debtor, no matter what law you study, you have no right. But then they remove the disability from themselves and they become we the people. They flip the script on the people. That's why all of them get in there and don't ever want to get out. And that's why the founding fathers said that no, you cannot hold any office, president or vice president, if you hold the title of nobility. And a title of nobility in England is a lawyer, an attorney, a squire, a earl, a duke, a lord. You cannot hold it. And there's nothing in the U.S. Senate and the Congress, and all the representatives are lawyers, attorneys. So you know it's right to the poor.
Well, my intel's telling me here that he actually can change the attorney, but it won't help. That he currently has an appeal, and it is public. The government has until February 24th to respond. So, I mean, he does have an appeal going on right now.
I heard he's got a really good write-up too, and that is he's got the right guys. I have heard, right attorneys,
right,
and Filopovic. I've talked to Filopovic and sent him a U.S. Observer newspaper, so he knew. He knows what's going on with the whole thing and the investigation, and I talked to him quite a while. So he's on it, I hear. Good.
Right. All right. And then you don't know what they putting in this food, how he's gonna show up at court when he finally gets that, and all the psychotropic medicines they putting in his ward and all. I've heard horror stories from people that I know that have been in prison or had prison experiences.
Right.
I have another question. If you do decide to remove yourself from the government, corporation, or whatever, and you did the paperwork, can you own land? Will they take your land away since it's a contract through the government?
See, right. That's why I'm saying you got to do your research. Remember when Donald Trump didn't pay no taxes? Right, and everybody was up and on. I wasn't mad at him because he knew. He knew the status. There are people who don't pay. There are people who don't pay taxes because they're not part of the corporate United States of America, and they've declared their indigenous status, or they've declared their flesh and blood human being status, and not as a corporation. That's why I keep saying to everybody that I come in contact with, and I don't talk to too many people, that the first issue at law is status. And I don't care what kind of law you're studying, ecclesiastical law, common law, Islamic law, Christian law. The first issue is status. And the first issue of status is, are you a debtor? If you are a debtor, you don't have no right. And when they make you a U.S. corporate citizen, you take on the United States, the corporation's debt, which is like $11 trillion, and you don't have no rights.
Wow. Well, it sounds like, I mean, from the intel that I have here, and from what you were saying, Brian, that it sounds like he has a pretty good shot. I mean, is that fair?
Well, he was innocent, and they abducted him and pushed him into prison. So, will they let him out? You know,
they kidnapped him and put him in a cage.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Right.
They kidnapped him and they put you in a cage.
So the whole thing is illegal to start with, and I don't know whether they're going to be legal now or what. You know?
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying to y'all. It was legal because the number. That's why it says an independent. The Declaration of Independence. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying, I want y'all to really listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the Declaration of Independence. It says that all governments are instituted by the governed by consent. Whenever you got that birth certificate, or whenever your parents signed on that birth certificate, or whenever you signed up to register to vote, you gave your authority by consent. You have to withdraw your consent.
Yeah, I never knew that. I mean, I never knew it.
Right, and when you're silent about it, silence is consent. You have to write that criminal organization. Your local magistrate, you have to write the Justice Department, the Department of Justice. Hey, this is not me. This name in all capital letters. This is not me, and I am no longer participating in your organization, your corporation.
Right. Wow. Amazing.
And that's why I'm in the midst of doing it right now. I'm waiting on the rest of my paperwork to come back.
Right. Absolutely. Let's bring on another guest we have here. Is Noble. Noble, how you doing?
Pretty good, thank you. Thank you for having me for a moment. I've been listening for a little while here, and I actually believe that there are some tools for you guys. I have done my research. There's a few of them. Bridging together some of our amendments, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 9th can be a powerful stand. And then your Russo loophole that was built into our Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., 1947, it is a wrongful conviction of Eddie Slovic that was executed at Leavenworth. And I know somebody who personally won against the government, took a lot of paperwork at first and just left it alone. And one day, years later, as a free man all those years, he received exoneration based on the government not having any jurisdiction. And that was based on the Russo loophole. And also, it was suggested that there is a video out. I need to go find it myself. I was just recently learned about it. It's called the Stop Loss Military Loophole. It's some kind of video out there that I need to find. So if you guys find it, shoot it my way, Joe, if you would.
Well, what is that video?
It is a military video, apparently, and it's called Stop Loss, and it's a military loophole. And like I said, I just learned about it, so I haven't even had a chance to find that particular tool that went with, apparently bridged with these amendments and the Russo loophole, the basic human rights. And that also goes along with, you might have even sent this to me, I don't know, but Title 42 U.S. Code subsection 12203, prohibition against any retaliation or coercion And, it sounds like these people are suffering from both those things, all those things. We've had people lose their lives right here in our very own country, standing on their very own homeland to make family security. And so I say flood the courts and overwhelm them.
Well,
That's
what do you
my
think?
take on it.
Okay. Gotcha. That's your take on it. Gotcha. Let's see here. Sorry, we have a couple more people here. You are absolutely welcome.
By the way, I'll mute.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Joe.
Hi. Yes, sir.
Hey, I just wanted to say something real quick. I'm about to have to make a run for it, but I wanted to just kind of like a little closing statement here. I want to let everybody know, that, I truly believe that our country's lost its way and that we're on a slippery slope. Evil has a strong hold on our daily lives, and it's basically rules our world now. We must take out the pillars of this tyrannical government one at a time. We have to expose the lies. We have to expose corruption. We have to, we need to start planting the seed in everybody's mind. Start waking people up. If we don't stand for our rights and liberties, corruption will continue to erode our core values and ways of life. We have no idea what's really going on behind closed doors. And my Bible tells me to prepare for what's coming. So, my best advice now is just to make sure everybody has their self-reliance, bushcraft skills are in check. Go ahead and stock up on guns and start praying, we have to get back to our core roots and learn to stand for our rights before we lose any more of them. No matter what happens, if we stand together and if we stand strong, we will not be defeated. Knowledge and numbers are power. Either way, they can end the corruption, or the American people will.
You're right. You're absolutely correct.
I got to run, Joe. It's been a pleasure being on here with you, brother.
Absolutely, as always, my brother. I will talk to you later. All right. Let's give some people here some closing statements. Sly, do you have anything else you want to close with, or?
Oh, I'm good, brother.
Okay. All right. You're welcome. Thank you. Brian, do you have any closing statements or anything you'd like to add into this here, or?
Oh, I can't think of much, I guess. I was just looking around at my stuff here, and I'll just send you guys some stuff, and you can look at it and give me a call if you want to talk about it.
Oh, I most definitely will. No, I most definitely will, because I want to do another show in here and doing a follow-up here on this, and bring you and Maria back on here, so we can kind of do what we can for Schaeffer. I want to mention this one last time here for everybody, his commissary. This is extremely important. Even those are our listeners that we have overseas, because right now we have listeners in Canada, the UK, Australia, Norway, Iceland, and Finland, and the Ukraine. We just picked up the Ukraine. So even you guys can help out, and you can do this. Again, you can send funds by Western Union, by MoneyGram, or by money order. And I'm not really sure if they have money order overseas or not. But this is for his commissary. You can use for legal fees. The address is Federal Bureau of Prisons, Francis Schaeffer Cox, number 16179-006, Post Office Box 474701, Des Moines, Iowa 50947-0001. I just want to put it out there.
And also a postal money order. That's what they tell me, postal money order.
Right. Money orders, no checks, no cash, nothing like that. Just like money orders.
From Safeway or something.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on here, Brian, and discussing this. And I get a chance to thank Maria. We had lost her call, but if you can thank her on our behalf here, we'd love to have you guys back, do a follow-up show here in the very near future. And I want to do some more research and keep up the speed with him of what's going on. I want to thank all of the people that called up, my crew, fellow host here, Phil and Kurt here. Phil, I see that you're up on here. How you doing, brother?
Well, doing good, Joe. Excellent show tonight.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
just want to make a comment. You know, I believe in I believe in the militia movement. However, in today's times, with the way that the government is formatted, you just really got to be cautious.
Yeah, right.
Here we have a brilliant young man in prison because he wanted to make a difference, and that is just appalling. He tried to be in the government. The election didn't go his way, so be it. But he had potentially another couple of whacks at the apple there that he could have, gotten into the government and made a difference. But you just because you're in a group, in a militia, you just got to really watch what you say, watch your associations, and just watch your back. And
even at that, they come in and set you up and do what they did, even at that.
Right, and you bring a valid point. That's a big complaint in the movement nowadays. That there are a lot of feds out there that have infiltrated various militia groups, Oath Keepers, Patriot groups, 3%ers, blah blah. And it's hard because a lot of them have just been infiltrated. And like in Schaeffer's case, he thought he could trust. And it's appalling. It's disgusting. I mean, there's so much disdain and disorganization and disinformation going on within the movement. So everybody needs to thoroughly vet what's going on. The members in your unit, make sure you know what's going on. Situational awareness. Always be aware of what's going on around you at all times. At all times. Blah blah blah. Let's find out. It looks like we have one last call. No, we can't. I know. Well, according to our time, we can't take it. Okay. But I want to thank everybody here for showing up here, and thanks again, Brian. I appreciate it, buddy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye. All right, bud. Bye.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't